place. Then be an unrebutted affidavit in commerce, which stands as both truth and judgment. You can do that in a number of ways, and then you need to know how to use it. It doesn't matter about any particular process of doing something. That's sort of being led up the garden path by a guru. The truth is, it's just business, and in business, if I state something and you sit there silently, then you've agreed. Simple as that. So in terms of the birth certificate, well, what is the birth certificate? Well, it's a title. It's evidence of a citizen, right? Okay, so what's a citizen? Well, a citizen is the right to charge and discharge dollars. It's banking, just banking. When people talk about getting remedy through acts and legislation and you got to send off this particular paperwork and whatever, it's like, nah, like I've been discharging debts. I'm on the do not detain list, but I had to earn it. You know, I didn't do it through a particular thing. I did it through fucking being able to walk it and talk it as I go around and then enforce it. You know, like.
So is yours proved effective so far?
It's what proved effective so far. Am I in jail?
Well, have you avoided any times when someone's tried to call cops?
Yeah, so I last week, so many times.
Great.
So many times, man. Like, how many examples can I give you? Last week, I was pulled over by the police because I went through one of those RBT setups, one of the massive ones in Mount Hotham. And the conversation went for 5 minutes. And by the end of it, the cop shook my hand and said, "Have a good day, sir. Congratulations on becoming a private banker." And just said goodbye.
That's very funny. It sounds like he probably deals with private people all the time then.
No, this young bloke, the older guy.
Oh, well, he was joking, was he?
No, he wasn't joking. He was serious. The young bloke sort of was young and, you know, just listened to what I was saying. But the older bloke was like sort of that Freemason type where they just don't want to fucking talk to you at all. You know, they just want to piss you off.
Or perhaps they just don't want to get themselves in trouble, yeah.
Yeah, but the reality is, right, I've got several unrebutted affidavits in commerce, and it's too much. I've got, you know, in all types of forms, whether it's a private trust, whether it's a copyright, whether it's just corrections and amendments. I've really done so many different ways of doing it, and it's like all you need in one form or another is an unrebutted affidavit in commerce, and then you need to know how to use it. So you need to, one, act competently as an individual. So you're acting as someone in divided duality, creditor to a debtor, right? And then establish your rights. You can do that with an unrebutted affidavit in commerce. You've established your right with an unrebutted affidavit in commerce. And then you can discharge obligations accordingly because no one can fucking touch it. Because unless they can rebut your affidavits, and the more you've done, the more they have to rebut, but they have no right to do it in the first place. Then they can't do anything.
They've got to rebut it within 30 days.
True.
So as long as you're over the 30 days, it's unrebutted in the establishment you put it into, and that's why you're using it, then there's nothing they can do.
And there's this, like, here's what I do with birth tests and marriages. If you go through, because my birth certificate sits with New South Wales, I don't care that it sits with New South Wales. It's not a big deal for me. I don't care that the citizen's under their administration, but I took section 45, correction of register, took section 45, correction of register, and I quoted this subsection 2. The registrar must, if required by a court, correct the register. So a court is paperwork, a court in equity, right? And I wrote up a little document stating, well, you are directed through a court in equity to correct the register. And that's just one way I've done it. And that's now an unrebutted affidavit in commerce because they've received it. I don't need confirmation of whether they've done anything with it or not, because confirmation of delivery is enough because I know how to use it. You know, that's how it all works. It's like people are expecting a response or something to happen, and it's like, nah, you make it happen. That's it. There's no confirmation. They're never going to say, "Oh, congratulations."
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
We
nah,
have a winner.
do we have a winner? The balloons and all that. You'll just start being able to speak their language, and then they'll start talking to you. Like, I've called all these government departments. I've called ASIC. I've called the Federal Reserve. I've told them what I've been doing. And I went one of the time I talked to the recent one. I talked to ASIC and I said, look, I got one of your bills. I discharged it through the surety. I just need an easy way to do that because I'm only able to do it in payment slips at this point. But can you give me a card or something or a checkbook? And they were just like, oh, yeah, we know what you're talking about, but we can't give you a checkbook. You're going to have to go talk to an accountant or someone who can act as an agent. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I went to Commonwealth Bank and just went in, booked an appointment to get a credit card so I can just discharge that every month. And the bank manager said to me, look, you're trying to do something private, which is in the public. You need to talk to the private bank. And she made a note on the system saying, you know, this guy wants to do this. And I asked her, I'm like, why do people not do this? And she goes, people don't want to know. And I'm like, what do you mean? But that's the truth, though. How many times have you tried to talk to people about anything at all, and they've just gone, no, fuck you, with their energy? You give them a solution, and they go, no, I don't want it, even though they talk about wanting a solution.
They want someone to hold their hand, man, and fucking walk them through the gate.
It's funny, but then I got a call within half an hour from Commonwealth Private. I've just been so fucking busy because I haven't replied to his emails yet, but. You know, like it is what it is. When you can speak their language and you know banking and accounting and commerce, it's like if you don't know that, they can't talk to you. Not because, you know, jurisdiction or any of that shit. It's just because you don't know what you're talking about. And there's no point talking. They're not there to give you legal advice or financial advice. They're just there to do a job. They act as your agent, right? And since they act as your agent, if you don't direct them, then they will assume the authority because you're not acting like you haven't. Because you don't know. You know, like, it's funny. It's really, really weird. But I suppose it all makes sense when you look at it from the perspective with a bit of knowledge behind you. You look at it and you go, actually, this system fucking works. And it's been around for 7,000 years. And it works for a reason. The problem is the administrators of it. They get power hungry and they don't get checked.
So can I ask a question? You said you got to a point where the private bank was basically your remedy. Were they willing to work with you?
Yeah, I'll show you the email.
It's actually current, man. It's not like it's in the past. It's now.
I'm still working, dude. I haven't got a black card yet.
That's what I'm trying to tell him, man, because he doesn't know he doesn't know what part you're up to.
Yeah, so I got basically, this is the guy. I got a private bank analyst. I've had Tanya Ma from Commonwealth Private as well contact me, but this guy works under her and he's an analyst. Because the questions they asked me, they went, can you? They did trick questions every time. They want to know if you're competent, and they go, does your income fit within the brackets of 200K to fucking whatever or something? And I said, I don't care. And they go, what do you mean? And I said, well, because I'm just discharging dollars and charging dollars. I don't care about the amounts. And then within half an hour, they had booked an appointment for me to talk to a private banker. And then this guy calls me and he goes, hello, Mr. Brody Forbes. Am I speaking to Mr. Brody Forbes? And I said, well, I can speak on his behalf. And he just laughed like it was an inside joke. And he's like, okay, so what do you want? You know, and then I told him, I'm like, I need you guys to act as my agent. I need you to discharge dollars on my behalf because I don't want to have to do all this trustee work. I just want to be a beneficiary of my estate. Why am I doing any work? Like, can you guys do it? And then he was just like, look, just put it all in writing. So I did. I responded, what did I do? I said, thanks for the email and your patience, Dylan. I've been completely distracted with other matters. This was weeks ago now. Since our phone call, I want someone to act as my agent. Remember Tanya's patience, blah, blah, blah. I'm acting as a creditor. You know, like I'm not belligerent. I'm not trying to fucking coerce them. I'm just telling them the truth of what I need. You know, I've been discharging dollars through endorsement of purchase invoices. However, I cannot do this at a Coles or a Woolworths. For example, since I'm still learning, I think starting starting small with a card with 25K that tops up every month is a good idea. And when I feel that I am more proficient and knowledgeable with my credit, I will look to increase the amount. And he goes, hi, Brody, apologies, missed you yesterday, blah, 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 no stress at all. Completely understand that you may be busy with other matters, blah, 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 blah. Can you confirm if you are seeking a personal or business credit card? I'm sort of seeking both, but I haven't replied yet. I've still got other things I'm doing. You know, there's a lot going on, but it's like there is remedy. You just need to.
Excellent.
You just need to know how to speak their language and how to bank. You need to be a banker because you are one, whether you like it or not. Whether you know what you're doing or not, you are one. And
Yeah, exactly.
do, right? They are forced to do it. They are forced to take your body as surety because, to be honest, you're not giving them the keys to your prepaid fucking life. You've got your birth certificate, that registration number is the insurance for your entire fucking life. And they're looking at you going, they're sending letters to the estate because they want someone to deal with it. They want you to give them the key so they can go through, open the door, settle the matter, close their account and go away. And since you aren't giving them the ability to go in and do that, they're going, well, fuck, we need to get the credit for this debt somehow. So we're going to take your house. We're going to take your fucking car. We're going to take your children. We're going to do all that sort of stuff because, well, you're not helping them. You've got a prepaid account. You've got your debts for your entire life have already been settled as soon as you give them, as soon as you endorse any charges or claims or whatever. You know, like obviously they should prove their claim. They should have evidence of their claim, but you know, you got to act from abundance. Because you are abundant. You don't need to worry about money because everyone's chasing money when the reality is you can just create money. You know, like
no shit, man.
You have an agreement as a citizen. Your citizen works with Australia. Australia is not the problem. The administrators of Australia are the problem. The Fed Reserve is the problem because the Fed Reserve is a private creditor which has fucking Australia by the balls. And Australia can't do shit without its citizens helping it out. You need to do your duties and discharge the national debt, and then you'll start freeing people from their bondage. Because any dollars that you carry, you're literally carrying someone's fucking debt. You're carrying evidence of a slave in your pocket. And what are you doing? You're exchanging that for value, for a receipt, which is also a fucking dollar as well. But anyway, that's a bit more advanced. You know, like you're getting you instead of trying to hoard all these dollars, karmically, what you should be doing, and don't fucking hold me to this because I haven't done it yet. I'm looking to do it in the next week and test it out, see what happens. Karmically, what you should be doing is taking all those dollars, all those receipts and whatnot, and discharging them, because then you're freeing someone from fucking slavery, it seems. But you know, that's just the theory behind it. I haven't tried it yet. I'm looking at doing, you know what I mean?
I thought about this a lot, the karmic implications of it, and I came to only one conclusion, and that's that no matter how you look at it, it's all just an IOU that passes from one hand to another. So there's no way to free it. Someone has to carry that debt. That's what the system was created for.
Mm.
That's my theory to why, I mean, so many people are, well, dead, really.
Mm. Can you elaborate?
Someone has to carry the debt for someone else. That's just how the system is.
No,
Well,
man, they've made us believe in value. Money's got value when it doesn't.
Yeah.
All right, because if we're supposed to be dealing in trade, you know, like I'll give you 2 sheep if you give me 1 cow, sort of shit.
What
You
does
know what I
have
mean?
value then? What actually does have value and what gives it value?
Well, what do they come for when they create a dollar? When they create a debt with dollars, what do they come for in exchange for those dollars that
The
they
gold.
give you? That's the value. They'll take your
What
fucking
gives the
house,
gold
they'll
the
put you
value
in
though?
jail,
What
they'll
gives the
do-
gold the value?
What gives the
Obvious-
gold the value?
Yeah. What makes
the
it so
people,
valuable? There's got to
obviously.
be a reason for it to be so valuable.
The people.
What do you mean? You say what gives money value? The people
What
do,
gives
man.
gold value? We've
the
replaced gold with fiat currency.
The
No, we haven't
popo.
replaced it. We haven't replaced gold with fiat currency. The gold's still there.
You know what? Because of its healing
Well,
powers or something, Tony. I
Yeah,
don't
of
know.
course.
we
Of course,
have-
the Egyptians were eating it.
Look,
What we have is we have full faith and credit in the system, right? That's what you want. You don't want gold or silver being the currency. That's fucking dangerous. That's a problem. You don't want a gold-backed currency. Who has all the gold? The fucking Vatican. If you, it's a problem. You don't want that shit. They're going to be fucking supreme ruler of the world, and they sort of already are, but only because people aren't doing their duties and acting with full faith and credit in the system. They're acting as debtors. There's a thing in the chat. Can you suggest options to do once you have an unrebutted affidavit after 30 days? Well,
But hang on,
I'm sorry.
Are you saying that the private bank card would not be under the straw man's name? Under the...
I'm not sure what you mean by that, but hold on, let me answer this question in the chat first. An unrebutted affidavit after 30 days. Well, you should preferably be following up with an equitable process to guarantee that it's an unrebutted affidavit. So you do it again and again, two times, and then you go at the end of it, you get a judgment on it by someone they recognise. So you could go to a JP, a notary, a commercial court, a post office. Just get a police officer, someone to witness it, someone with authority who can witness it. And you go, this, like, you write up a document saying, this is now deemed as judgment of, your securitized affidavit number, and this is deemed as judgment of this as truth or whatever, and then get them to fucking sign it and look at, because they have to look at the court of record. You have to have a perfected court of record to have an unrebutted affidavit or judgment in commerce. I mean, you need to take records of everything. That's what being a banker is. You're an accountant. You're meticulous with your recording, because that's what they do. They have everything on the cross, and they don't leave the office till the book's balance.
The ledger's balance, yeah.
Yeah, till it hits zero. So you need to do the same thing.
But that's I think that's talking about something else, though. In a karmic sense, that can only occur when
Well, what goes around comes around.
No, but listen to me. That can only occur when your equitable title is separated from the legal title.
Yeah, but it already is. What do you mean?
Well, well, I wanted to ask you about the private bank card. How are you, like, under what name are you acquiring it?
It would be the citizen name.
Yeah.
It could be any derivative from the citizen as well. Because the citizen, actually, I've figured it out already. Like, I was looking at getting a credit license, but then I realized the citizen already has a credit license and it has it through Australia, because Australia has a credit license. So I was like, why the fuck am I worried about getting a credit license with the IMF? It already is a creditor. Like, I was going around in circles. But yeah, the citizen's name, because that is your insurance. And everything which derives from that is also insured. Like, if you go and create your own entity separate, you can do that. You can go create your own separate entity, like a private trust, which isn't registered in their system at all. But the problem with doing that is that now it doesn't have an agreement with the Bank of International Settlements or the Federal Reserve or Trilateral Commission or whatever you want to call them. It doesn't have an agreement with them, which allows it to have all debts settled. So if you then incur a debt, then you have to pay it. So
that's right. You need the agreement. So you need to open up a separate card under a different entity that can work in commerce, that can actually have a commercial agreement.
I don't know, dude. Like, what card? Because it's not going to get the benefits and privileges of the citizen. It's not going to do that unless it's derived from that citizen. The citizen is what has the agreement with the IMF. The citizen has the credit license. Your entity that you create separately, unless you create that using the citizen, it does not have any rights to credit in the system. It is a foreign entity completely.
Yeah, man.
Hang on. What if it's another kind of citizen? What if it's like some accountant?
Man, it's got to be the same name that's on that birth certificate, because that birth certificate is how they've registered it. All right.
It doesn't have to be the
That's-
same name. It
that's-
has to be derived from.
No,
the
no,
s-
but the bank card. The what is?
Oh, right.
I'm answering the gentleman that's asking you the question. Sorry, Brody, man.
Oh, you're right.
Because he's saying what name you're going to have it in. Well, you can only have it in one fucking name. Man. The name of the account.
And anything derived from that. So if you open a PTY, or if you create a trust like set law using your name, then and all derivatives of that name are insured. However, if you create even when people do as the crown of the name or crown in right of the name or whatever, it's still the same thing. You're referencing the original security, which is insured. It's called a security because it's insured. It's a bond. It will pay.
Yeah, it's leaned.
Yeah. So, unless you create some completely other foreign entity, but then you have to, on that entity's behalf, acquire a credit license for the IMF. If you want to use dollars. Otherwise, it just has to do business in gold and silver. You know. And anyway, unrebutted affidavit after 30 days. Yeah, I'd be following it up with an equitable process, and then at the end of that equitable process, get a judgment in commerce. A recognized judgment in commerce, because it's already a judgment in commerce, but a recognized judgment in commerce. So someone who in their system has authority, which can sign it and say, and give and back it as well, endorse it, you know what I mean, with their signature, with their value, and back you up. Because the thing is, the courts, right, they're not entirely corrupt. Yes, they're corrupt, but what the judges really do, the magistrates do, is they just look at the facts. Everything else is not important. They'll look at the paperwork and they'll look at the facts, and as long as they can recognize what's happened, then they will, like, if anything's brought into a court, like you have an unrebutted affidavit, you've done this whole equitable process, and you've gotten a JP or something to witness it, it's not a big sort of. It's not a big deal for the magistrate to just look at that and go, well, all the work's been done here. There's no confusion as to the facts. No, what the claimant's claim or whatever is discharged or whatever. Like it's people worry about, if you get a JP to sign something or a notary to sign something, you're dragging yourself into that jurisdiction.
No, you're not.
Yeah, you're not, because you're never in that jurisdiction. And I've also looking at, because you are separate. Problem is, you only drag yourself into that jurisdiction through this. They've allowed you to do it, the demise of the crown. They've said, if you want to act as the surety, we will not put you in jail for fraud. Right? Because we've allowed it. We'll say, yeah, you can be the surety and we'll take your body as payment instead of your prepaid access to your prepaid estate or that power of attorney. But as soon as basically, they do that, but when you demise your crown, then sorry, I've lost my fucking train of thought. Does anyone remember what I was saying? Demise of the crown, right? Oh, yeah, right. People worry about, if you're going to act in their system. Well, you have to. Whether you like it or not, you have to act in commerce. You can only act in commerce. Right now, we're doing commerce, right? We are exchanging a current of energy. It's an exchange, right? We're acting through a persona. All of us. We might say, I'm a living man or all that shit. Doesn't matter. A living man is a legal fiction. People don't comprehend that. It's well, a living man is their word. They've defined us as living men and women or whatever in one way or another. They might define you as a person over here, whatever, it doesn't matter. But they're all legal fiction, right? Everything but right now, this moment right now, is a legal fiction, is a fiction. It doesn't exist. It just exists in your mind and in the ether. It's not actually right here, right now. And the problem people have is they mix that. They mix themselves with the world of fiction. So, like when it comes to, you get a judgment by a JP or whatever, it's like, no, it's just a tool for your commercial tool. It's a commercial tool. It's not you at all. And don't be afraid.
Well, it's a story. It's a beautiful story because we have a body, which is the soul. That's the fiction because it's not really there. It's an illusion. And then you have the spirit that animates it. So the illusion doesn't mean anything without the animation principle. And you can jump between the two. You can act as whichever one you want, but the truth is you are both.
Yeah, you have to act in commerce. You can't. When the reason they can lock you up when you say you're a living man and all this sort of stuff is because you're not acting correctly in commerce, and they have to take your body as surety, because the one thing they can see is that you've turned up, and they know that when you demise your crown in any way, because the death of the sovereign shall have the effect of transferring, not transferring, but the effect of transferring rights, authorities, all that sort of stuff. So if you're doing anything but acting competently in commerce, you are giving them authority. If you don't know how to act competently in commerce, then they have the authority. And to be honest, they should, because you don't know how to act competently in commerce. It's just a fact. I wouldn't let someone who doesn't know how to pilot a plane. You know what I mean? You're waving around a sword when you're acting as a creditor. You could stab yourself in the face. You could stab someone else in the face. You could hurt people. You got to know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, then technically they should be doing what they're doing, which is taking your body as surety. It is a privilege that you can put yourself in jail to pay off debt. It is a privilege. It's like if you wanted common law, when people talk about common law is a problem. You don't want common law. You don't want gold-backed currency. You don't want none of that. And the reason is because all your debts are already prepaid. You just don't know how to do it. You don't know how to act competently in commerce. With common law, if you've got a debt to me in common law, right, I can literally take you as my slave and force you to work it off however I want. Does that sound fair? And then no one else is going to come to save you because that same thing could fucking happen to them. You know what I mean? Like, that's common law. That's the problem. Banking is the answer, but you just need to know how to bank, how to be a bank, how to act in commerce, how to be an actor. Because you can act as anything. When they say, what's your name?
Oh my,
what they ask.
this is amazing. This one is amazing. This act.
Okay, hold on. But yeah, do you have a link already in the chat or something? Is that? But anyway, look, when you're when they go, what's your name? What they're asking you, right? Because the word name means word by which a person or thing is denoted, a persona, right? When they say, what is your name? They are asking, what role are you playing in this commercial court today? And then you can go, you can be the surety if you want. However, when they ask me, what's your name? I sometimes say, depending on my mood, well, I'm acting as settlor in this transaction. I'm acting as the beneficiary in this transaction. Might even give them the registration number of the property, with the presumption being that I know that that property is not me. So I can't be the surety because I can't be property. You know, but if I say I'm that name, I am that surety, then I'll be the surety. Right? Oh, sorry, a question in chat. So how do we address someone who has been put in jail when they haven't done anything out of balance? If they've been put in jail, they've done something which is imbalanced, the cross. They've created a debt that hasn't been settled.
Just to confirm for some of the others in the chat, what do you mean when you say property, the registration number of the property? You're talking about the birth certificate.
Birth certificate registration number.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the property is the citizen. The right.
And where can they find that birth registration number?
On the birth certificate itself.
That's right.
That's the full disclosure. People say, oh, they've never been told what's
going on. It was right there in plain sight.
Right in front of them their whole life.
Yeah.
Never looked at it. They questioned it. So they can't really say that they haven't been given full disclosure. You just haven't looked. And fair enough, you know, a lot of us haven't. And to
Yeah,
be
that's
honest,
why you shouldn't hate them. You should
well,
accept the fact that they gave you remedy right from the beginning. They're not your enemies.
they're not your enemy. They're just doing sort of, well, the whole COVID thing is questionable. The corruption of the administrators is definitely prevalent. I'm not denying that, but the system itself is not evil. The system itself works. You just need to know how to use it. If you don't know how to use it, of course you're going to think it's fucking evil,
Yeah.
right? Because you don't comprehend it. You don't understand what's going on. You don't know why they're coming to take your house. You don't know. You've literally got a prepaid account, which has prepaid your entire life up front since 1933. That is great. Fucking oh. You know, like, and then
Even older than that, Brody, man. Oh, how
What?
even older than that. They reckon it goes back to Babylon days.
is it? Yeah, 7,000. Yeah.
Like the
Did
original one.
someone with mental health issues by throwing them into a psych ward and drug them up with poison instead of curing them. Look, like I said, I'm not denying the corruption of box tickers as well as people in general and administrators of the system. There's definitely corruption there. However, the majority of times it is done in equity. They have given you a remedy. Often when they talk about, like for example, with mortgages, there's the Land Transfer Act in Victoria. Land Transfer Act, it talks about how you can discharge a mortgage. They give you the disclosure right there on the mortgage of how the governing law of that mortgage is, of that trust. They say, here's the governing law. You're free to go look that up. The fact that you haven't looked it up is sort of on you. It's not really on them. They've given it to you. They've said, here it is. Have a look. This is the governing law of the agreement. And there's sections in here, like I'll have to search it to find it, but it talks about what is it? Discharge. Discharge. I can't spell discharge.
Can Frank or Brody look in either Frank Viber and Telegram in Brody's? Because I'm on mobile, I wasn't able to upload it in the chat. That old COVID, where we go all book. If you just do a control find and punch in registered bank, and that'll define how your birth certificate is a registered bank. Every single one of us is a registered bank. Well, the birth certificate is the registered bank.
Yep, you have a bank.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all have a bank. How big is your bank? That's the question. Have you got one which is... but like the problem is the system is too easy to corrupt. That's true. You're right. But...
No, not the system. People are weak, mate. People are weak.
No, but look, the system is easy to take advantage of. But it's never just a one-sided thing. There are people that, through their own performance and ignorance, have been to blame somewhat. Like citizens have been taking from the government for a very long time and not really doing anything in return besides chasing dollars, which is not what you're supposed to do with dollars. And yes, they didn't inform you what you're supposed to do with dollars. So there's wrong on both sides. It's definitely true. But anyway, look at this, the discharge. It talks about all this sort of stuff. I don't remember exactly which section it is, and I don't really want to go through the time of it, but it's one of these sections basically that, here it is. Registrar may register a mortgage if the mortgagee, meaning trustee or bank, which you get the mortgage through, has signed that mortgage. And then basically it talks about if a mortgage registered in a court, like if the mortgagee then sells on that mortgage or whatever they do, the mortgagee has to be retained. If that ceases to be retained by the bank, they don't have that mortgage. The mortgagee, meaning the bank, must discharge the mortgage as soon as practicable. The debt's already paid. Like, must be retained by the mortgagee until the mortgage is discharged. Yeah, so they have to. A lot of the time, they are giving you remedy. They are giving you remedy. Define weak. I would define as weak as
Weak. They succumb to weakness, and then they become corruptible.
I'd say uninformed is definitely part of it, but ignorance
What's that,
really
man?
weakness. Because if you've been presented with an option, but you choose not to do anything about it, then technically you're choosing your choices make you who you are, right? But they present you with the option. They do. They seem to all the time, from what I've seen. You know, I don't know specifics about particular situations, right? About which I'm not involved with, but with everyone that I've seen, they tend to, like, if they send you a fine, they quote an act, which they're sending the fine through, which is a contractual term, which is one, negotiable, and two, is where the remedy is. Because if you need remedy, it means you're already in a contract, right? Remedy is contract, whereas relief is equity. It's all banking. Like when people also think when they talk about, oh, we need to get back to equity, you're always in equity all the time. You're always in equity. They have to begin in equity.
If you broke the lamp in 1963 when you were fighting with your brother, and some guy punches you in the mouth in the nightclub 20 years later, that's the equity.
I don't know about that, but if like, you're always in equity. The moment you open your mouth is the moment you bring yourself out of equity, and then you have to try to get back in because you fucked yourself over. You know what I mean? Like, that's because you're not acting competently in commerce. So they have to take the authority because someone's got to fly the plane, and you don't know how to do it. You know, and yes, there's fucking corruption. They are corrupt. People are corrupt in general. However, the office of, you know, the Attorney General is not corruptible, but the man or woman, being a legal fiction, but you get what I'm talking about, the living being which occupies that office is definitely corruptible, right? But the office itself, the corporations are not corruptible. They are corpses. They are dead. They're literally just paperwork. They can't do anything. They're not corruptible. In fact, they're way less corruptible than living beings, because living beings can change. Whereas corporations are just sort of set in stone, statutory.
So let's just recap. There's proof of a trust because of a birth certificate. There's a number on it. It's on bond paper. They took away the wealth in 33. Governments went to be corporations back in 1871 in America. They were bankrupt back at that point in 1815 in England, 1871 in America. And within the acts they've written, they have given us remedy. But most of us have not looked to see what it is and how to find it. So first of all, if we look at something like the Crown Proceedings Act, if you want to flick it up, Brody, it's been still sharing your screen.
Crown Proceedings Act, yeah, no worries.
Within that act, it gives you a remedy how to correct it, and through the Death, Birth and Marriage Act, it actually explains to you to do it through a court. But a court is through paperwork.
Honestly, which section of the Crown Proceedings Act? 1988. Are you looking for the New South Wales one, or are you looking for the federal?
Federal, preferably, because that covers everybody, doesn't it?
Land. Well, they all cover everybody because of the Trans-Tasman Recognition Act.
Well, yeah, technically they do. Go to the one you know, and then you can find the bits we're looking for. We're looking for the golden nuggets. We're looking to show people how to find golden nuggets.
Okay, so I'll go with the Victorian one since we're in Victoria. All right, so I'd go search this act. This is the website called Ostley. What are we searching for?
Well, we're searching for remedy, but the wording and it's in there. It's going to be in there. You've got. I mean,
let's look at the sections.
Okay.
Bail bonds, like look at what they're talking about. Mode of recovering Crown debts. Let's see what that says. All debts, damages, debt due sums of monies are payable to the Crown, basically. Her Majesty shall be sued for recovery. All debts are due to the Crown. Proceedings by Crown. This is how you can basically, any right or claim which the Crown may have against any person may be enforced by a proceeding. Yeah, so you proceed through paperwork. You proceed with a court in equity. Your paperwork, you proceed against them. And this is just remedy within their acts. Like, this means that you're just doing it through your person, which like you can move your person around. You can take your person and go get a citizenship with like Romania if you want to be bound by the Romanian legislation. You can create your own legislation by having a PMA. But you know, the big thing is that you comprehend that you are not that citizen, and you know how to act competently in commerce, because then you can get the actual benefits of all these acts. You know, because you know that you're not actually bound by them unless you choose to be, right, through your performance. Whereas if when you just talk to them correctly in commerce, it's like, well, it sort of goes without saying that they can't touch you, and that they won't, because, well, you're doing the job which needs to be done. All they're doing is settling the debt, you know, and they'll do it one way or another. They have to. Someone has to take accountability.
The problem is that when everybody pays things, that increases the national debt. If we offset things, that would then reduce the national debt.
Yeah, spot on. You're right. Like, but all people are doing, right, is they're promising to pay. They're not actually paying. You're exchanging dollars for a debt which is to do with dollars. Like, I know that sort of might make sense to a lot of people, but the reality of it is a dollar is a promise to pay, but not actually payment. So all you're doing with your mortgage, for example, if you have a mortgage, it's like, well, they're asking for a dollar amount. And the reason they're not coming after the credit is because you're actually, by giving them dollars, you are telling them that you will promise to pay. And then the moment you stop giving them dollars, they go, well, he must be then about to pay. So since he's got this credit here, we'll come and take that. Since he's not promising to pay anymore, it seems like he's going to pay it. You know, that's what they have to do. They have to look at the facts on paper, because they exist statutory. They exist in a statutory world, a fiction world. So they have to look at the fiction. They can't look at reality.
So
I know that's all fucking backwards, but anyway, go on, Andy.
If we go to Deaths and Marriages, Victoria, have you got that one up?
No, the birth, deaths and marriage. I've got the New South Wales one up.
That's the Victoria one, section 43, for everyone who wants to take a note of that. Put the New South Wales one up, they're very similar.
The registrar must, if required by a court, correct the register. You quote this section. That's what I did. I quoted this section, right? Through this, I then established my right, like in not that one, this one, birth certificate, New South Wales Office of Birth Certificates and Marriages. This is what the birth certificate is for. A birth certificate is used to establish identity and enable individuals, meaning someone who is competent at commerce, a creditor to a debtor in divided duality, to establish their rights. So through a record amendment, so you establish who you are and what you're doing. You give yourself a name, a title in the court, right? Or not yourself, but you give your person, right? Or whatever. You're acting as something. You're always acting. And then you can discharge your obligations, right? So the reason I'm able to discharge stuff through payment slips, for example, is because I've established the rights of my person, right? I've established who I am in relation to it. And I quoted their section to do it because I'm dealing with this entity, New South Wales. That's where my birth certificate, that's the ship which my citizen sits on. So I took what, you know, the captain was basically saying and said, well, captain, no problem. However, just do this because you said you would. You know, that's remedy through their acts. They're acting, right? You want to, this is the script. You got to know your lines. But yeah, court, like I said, a court in equity, because it is. It's a court in equity. I'm approaching them with an offer. I'm saying, here's an unrebutted affidavit. This is an affidavit. Are you going to rebut it? Here's your offer. You want to rebut this affidavit? Otherwise, it's going to stand.
I just put the Victorian one up. So give us a second.
Have you put that in the chat?
Yeah. So on the Victorian one in section 43, corrections, amendments, the register may correct the register to reflect a finding of main inquiry under Division 2, to bring an entry about a particular registrable event. It says here, registrar must, if required by a court. What is a court? Does anybody know what a court is?
Well,
Court,
It's
isn't
authority that you establish.
Isn't that the dance they do before they consummate?
Well, the court is what we're doing right now. We're all courting each other.
Right.
Saying, hey,
So
I've noticed.
a court is basically a piece of paper. It's just a straightforward piece of paper.
Hang on, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't it come from establishing authority? Because it comes from the idea of man chasing a woman or pursuing a woman. So it's
Yeah.
the spirit pursuing the body. So it's our animation principle pursuing the illusion, and through pursuing that illusion, we get what we want.
Sounds good.
Well, if required by a court, right? What they're doing when they court is when you establish a court, you're right, establishing authority. That's what it is. Because for a court to exist, there has to be a crown. You know, that's what it was. The crown's court. So they put on a show for the crown, and then the crown can act in the court as well if the crown wants. The crown can do whatever the fuck they want because they're the crown. They've established a trust court. You know.
You put your back on again if you want. Put yours back on.
Oh right, yeah. Hold on, I'm just reading the chat. So if a woman who is ignorant because this is all hidden from them, but managed to carry a child for 9 months and give them bring into the world is weak.
No, not weak, just ill-informed, very
Yeah.
ill-informed, which is, you know, where we're trying to help people. You know, at the end of the day, a mother goes through great duress in going through pregnancy in the first place, then giving birth, and then is handed a piece of paper within minutes of them whipping the baby away, taking a footprint, and sticking vitamin K in it to slow its brain down, and they get the mother to sign as an informant, put it into the system, and they give it a surname, which is a slave name, to attach it to their system.
Yep, absolutely. But also remember, there's guilt on the mother's side as well, because she is also should know the value of her signature, because she knows on some level, everyone knows on some level, when they sign something, they're agreeing to something. Everyone knows that. Now, yes, she's under the influence of drugs and alcohol and stuff like that. But then
it's not
Like,
equitable
alcohol,
though.
bloody giving birth.
not alcohol, sorry, not alcohol. Yeah, you get my point though.
Right,
Under the influence of a substance, possibly painkillers, possibly something like that.
Fluoride to cement her brain from the beginning of time.
Yep, that's true, and that's the fault of the administrators in the system because they get greedy. But your mother as well, then after that birth certificate has been signed for, then begins to cooperate with the government.
Unbeknownst to her, but
Hey, she gets you a tax file number, she gets you all this other stuff, maybe a bank account, et cetera, using what they've done and that agreement. So there is fault on both sides in terms of people not knowing what they're doing.
I had a classic the other day. I was going to the snow, and a policeman stopped me. Supposedly I've got a ban because of travelling through some roadworks, but weren't really, in my opinion, roadworks. But he was trying to get a name out of me, and I said, "What makes you think I've got a name? You know, I'm happy to take your breath test and start recording." And he said, "Oh, you've got a name on your birth certificate." And I just thought, how gold was that? You turn around and you say, "Well, hold on a minute. What's it actually say at the bottom of the birth certificate?" You didn't want to hear. I said, "What's it actually say at the bottom of the birth certificate?" You know, no, what's it actually say at the bottom of the birth certificate? It cannot be used as identification. Yet they want you to use a birth certificate to open a bank account. They want you to use a birth certificate to open, to get a driving license. So if you're using that document to get that, why do they need that document? They need that document because the source document that's got the code on the top right-hand corner of it, which is the code they're going to use to charge your estate.
Yeah, exactly. That document doesn't refer to you and they know it. They're just using it, saying, well, we need this because this is evidence of your corporation. Right. I'll show you it I've got somewhere on my fucking files, I don't know, person, maybe that will be there. Birth certificate, pull one up, a birth certificate. Let's have a look. All right, that's probably it. Here's a birth certificate. Oh, it's upside down. How fun. Let's turn it around. Birth certificate. Here's a birth certificate. This is one of the ones this is a really old one that I had, but here's the full disclosure of what it is. You know, registration number. And then it says down the bottom here, this is New South Wales, so it always says different things. But it says here with someone's signature, someone's endorsement, they've said, I hereby certify that this is a true copy of particulars recorded in a register in the state of New South Wales in the Commonwealth of Australia. Does that seem like you? Or does that seem like this is a true copy of particulars recorded in a register? So when you're saying that you are this, well, you're saying that you are a true copy of particulars recorded in a register. So they'll administer accordingly. They've allowed you to do it, which is a problem on their end.
Just talk about that box there. It says endorsements.
Endorsements. Yeah, there we go as well. Endorsements. What do you do when you endorse something? Oh, you're giving it full faith and credit. You're saying, oh, I back this. I endorse this. I co-sign this or whatever. It's a check. It's literally a bond. You know, it has really nothing to do with you at all. It's a banknote. And, you know, when people go around thinking that this is them, it is because they are insane. But they are only insane because they are misinformed. But yet they are still insane, right? And we can't go around trying to, you know, talk, oh, well, what if this and what if that? It's like, well, here's the facts. The facts are the majority of people are debtors and the majority of people are not going to stop acting like debtors. And we can only act competently as creditors in commerce for our own estates. And no one can help anyone. People just have to be competent. You have to be competent, because if you're not, well, too bad. Someone else is going to fly your plane. So yeah.
Even, can I just cut in? Even if they whip the baby out of mum.
For a second.
Oh right. Let Tony talk first. Sorry.
Yeah,
Tony.
If they whip the baby out of mum's hands, go and, you know, put a footprint on a birth certificate somewhere and in the infantry ward and all that stuff. Is there any reason on top of all that to whack a needle of vitamin K into its brain and slow its, you know, development down? On top of all that, you can have the commerce stuff.
Look, I'm going to play devil's
separately.
advocate here,
If they learn
Tony.
as quick as we do now, and you'd be honest, look what we're doing, look at how quickly we're learning this. If you can imagine that children didn't have that slowdown for that first 4 or 5 years, then we'd be so far ahead, it just wouldn't be funny. You remember people going to work at the age of 12, 13, 20, 30 years ago before they started using vitamin K. These days they're struggling to get into bloody playgroup at the age of 5.
Yeah.
Oh look, I'll play devil's advocate here for a second.
Get me on a whole screen, but at the bottom of mine, it physically says
not to be used as ID.
yeah, warning, it cannot be used as ID.
My point is that even if they didn't do all that damage to the newborns, they would still have a bunch of dumbasses that they could easily, you know, manipulate in commerce, regardless.
That's true.
I mean, there's evil here. This evil cannot be ignored. Period.
No.
People make all sorts of
evil in all of us too. You know, that's the thing. If we don't acknowledge the evil in ourselves, then how can we acknowledge that? How can we try and take control of evil in general at all if we don't know what evil is? But look, I'll play devil's advocate here for a second as well, right? So when they took the baby off the mother, did the mother protest? Did she get up and fight the nurses off? Did she display clear intent about anything that she was doing
she's
besides?
Already gone in for
They
a blood
didn't
test.
know, bro. They didn't know, bro.
I know they didn't know, but if some I'm playing devil's advocate here, right? I don't like, obviously what they've done is wrong, but yeah, you're right. It is human nature to trust. That's true.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's a part of the spiritual journey. On one half, we get genetics from our parents, but we can deactivate the bad ones and activate the good ones. So there's no excuse about genetics. If you meditate, which isn't difficult to learn, it's all over YouTube. You could do something like a Wim Hof meditation every day and you'll activate the good genetics. And seeking remedy through law it's the exact same thing, but on the commercial side, on the side of the crown and mind, which is even more important because that has to lead. We're led by our will.
Yeah, there's definitely.
So there's no need for anger. The whole purpose of this whole process is to diminish your anger and realize that it's all just an excuse. It's all just blaming someone who is really here just to teach you. All these men are here to teach you something. The corrupted ones are the best teachers of all,
Always
because
are.
they make you see that your faith is weak. You need to strengthen your faith by following your path and having faith that there is a remedy to everything, because it's in the design. Nature made everything so that there's a remedy in the design.
That's a very, very good point. And there's just a comment. Sometimes they've done it behind parents' wishes, behind their backs. Like, that's true. I'm not denying that there's corruption of people. People are inherently corrupt. We cannot have good without having bad, and we have good and bad in all of us.
Yeah,
There are certain aspects of our lives where we are corrupt, right? Where we do the evil things and we don't even know. You know,
Yeah.
like, no one's perfect and no one's ever going to be. And so someone who rapes, mutilates, tortures is a teacher. I think we need to stop following cliches. What do you feel that, to respond to that, Ray?
Someone who rapes, mutilates, tortures is a teacher. Well, I'll put it this way. If you think everything in this universe is just a coincidence, well, then you don't even have the most basic connection to quantum mechanics, which coincides with spirituality, to say that there are no coincidences. Everything we experience is what we manifest in our lives. I once met a man who was very uneducated, and he said, but there's no God, there's no connection, there's no greater intelligence. What about all those kids in Africa that are born into families who are starving? And I say, yeah, well, that's beyond your comprehension. But if you have faith that one day you'll comprehend it, you'll awaken and you'll see that there's always a balance to it, that these entities had some kind of karma from previous lives, and theirs may be more difficult in this one, but even they can resolve it. And there's plenty of stories of people in Africa escaping it. There's crazy stories, but it just goes to show that they do have remedy. Is it fair? Is nature fair? Well, that's a completely different argument, which, it's beyond human or the comprehension of man.
Well, remember, look, there's no egos here. There's no one who's personally attacking anyone. All we're doing is we're all working together to try and figure out a solution to a problem. So the big thing is, right, if you look at energy as well, this is my opinion, right? Just an opinion, take it or leave it. If you look at energy, energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be transferred from one form to another. So therefore, the energy which embodies ourselves must embody everyone else, the same energy. So
That's right.
if you go around and you rape and kill and murder and torture and all that sort of stuff, guess what? The same energy which is embodying the rapist embodies the one who is raped. So they will experience both. Like that's where karma works. It goes, that's just an opinion. That's my opinion on the way that energies work and the way that karma works. It's a natural balancing of the book. So anything you do to someone else, you will reap the benefits and privileges of that in there when you live their life. That's what
it comes back to judgment, and this is probably something more people are familiar with in the Bible, but the light in which you judge someone, how you look at someone, that same light will be used to judge you. So it might be in a courtroom, it might just be in the street when a stranger sees this man raping someone. That stranger might just happen to have a 20-inch blade that he's going to use to rape that same rapist. But eventually that judgment catches up. And that's the law of averages, knowing that everything is always in balance. And the only time it is out of balance is so that it can do its best in the potential it has to teach. So that's what faith is. It's knowing that everything has the best potential to teach, and that's what's happening. It's moving you forward.
I think a lot of these conversations can be really confronting for people because they're obviously very deep, and it's no one's fault if you feel at all offended by anything that's said, because we've all had trauma in our lives, and we've all had things that we're worried about, we're insecure about, and all that sort of stuff. And I'm the same. I don't like certain things that happen, and it is what it is. But what I do remember, which is in alignment with what Greyman's saying, is that I remember that I can learn from everything. but that it triggers me or not, I can learn from it. I can use it in some way to my advantage, and
Well,
then
look,
I'm okay with it. You know.
I don't think it necessarily needs to be classified as deep. I think the teachers on this planet have just not done a very good job of explaining karmic principles. Like everyone, remember a time when you have picked something up from someone. Maybe you've seen a credit card on the ground and you've taken it to your local bank. This just happened to me the other day. I found a credit card in front of my apartment. I took it, went to the local bank, handed it, and said, call them straight away so that they can get it back. Not 2 or 3 days later, I accidentally, through some fluke, I left my phone on a table at a bar, and I had no idea what bar I left it in. That entity called someone from my phone and told them that they had my phone, and that individual basically came to me and told me that my phone was in this bar. So it was a miracle, but it's not really a miracle. It's just our ability to see that everything is always in balance. That's all it is. And I know that there's plenty of other people who have experienced that. Maybe you've shown mercy to someone who you felt like hitting, and then that same thing happened to you. Someone who's very violent showed mercy towards you.
That's a really good point. Well, it says, forgive them, they know not what they do.
Yeah, that's why Jesus did it. And that whole death on the cross, that was symbolic. That wasn't a physical death. That's actually Kundalini. The whole Bible is about the Kundalini awakening. When you have that awakening, you will no longer have fear. You will no longer have an enemy construct. And you will be in these groups and you'll be teaching people the fact that all these external remedies are there to move you towards the internal remedy. Once the internal remedy occurs, you will understand everything. Not a single religion will be confusing. And no longer will you hate these Masons or these Satanists or any of them. You'll comprehend that all their stories, all their works are really just different perspectives on the same work, which is that the spirit is the animating principle that must merge with the body to make you alive. You're not considered living until you have that awakening, because you're always going to be taken into some kind of battle.
Apollo 6 just put an interesting thing in the chat. Forgiveness is not for the forgiven, but rather a release for the forgiver. Yeah, the crown, all debts are due to the crown, but the crown can forgive the debt, you know, in order to be free from the burden of having to reclaim the debt. You know what I mean? That's an offset, a set off, or whatever you want to call it, discharge. You've given up.
Earlier you said, where does it come from, that credit, when that we're discharging? Because surely we have to pay something for it. And teaching people and forgiving those who do wrong is exactly how we pay for it. So the spiritual path that we can keep going in by meditating, by making sure our diet's good, by reading the spiritual texts and comprehending the connection between all of them, that path is the creditor to the remedy in law, which is actually creating karmic debt. So that's what being an adult is, acknowledging that this whole experience is spiritual, and that every single secret sect and brotherhood is basically teaching their initiates exactly this. They're teaching them how to create a credit so that they can do whatever they want with their credit. They can go out there and rape, they can kill, they can torture, but nothing is going to happen unless you actually balance the scales. I mean, rather, if you balance the scales, nothing is going to happen, because you're your own judge. You're ensuring that there's a balance. So people get taken to a court when there's an imbalance in their deeds and what they're expecting and taking from the external world. That's all it is. That's all it ever will be. Just a manifestation of the inside outside.
Maria, can you elaborate on what you just put in the chat? Maybe the word only goes between not and for.
Yeah, well, I think it's for both people. So I think that the statement sort of correctly says it's for the, hang on, let me read it again. Do you know what I mean? For both people.
Yeah, can you just elaborate on it? So I'm not quite sure what you mean. That's why I'm asking.
Well, it's not only for the forgiven, but for the other as well. So hang on, let me go back. I just can't see it. So for the forgiven and the forgiver as well.
Mm. Oh, yeah, I see. Yeah, that's a good point. For both, for everyone. And it's true, when you offset debt as doing the duties of your citizen, you're doing the other citizens a favor, whether they know it or not, because they're in such debt. The country, the whole state or whatever, is in such debt to a foreign creditor that, you know, the books need to be balanced. And if they're not, then the debt will just increase and people will become more and more enslaved because they're just promising to pay, but they're not actually paying. You know, they're not actually, they're just promising to pay all the time. And yes, you know, it's through partly through design, but what do you expect? What do you expect people to do? People are corruptible. We are corruptible ourselves. If we were in the same position, who'd lived the same lives as them, right? They're only doing what they do because they see it as their best means for survival. Now, if we saw that as our best means for survival, would we do the same thing? Would we administer jabs on children if we saw it was the best means for our survival, living their life, being in their position, where they have become addicted to power, and they need to feel like, to be comfortable, they need to maintain their power and grow their power?
It's
we
not
be-
easy being Rothschild.
You know what I
I
mean? Like,
noticed that these vaccines keep coming up a lot. But what is a vaccine and something like that, if not just a debt to pay for the awakening of others? That's all it's ever been. You have to acknowledge that all of you here that have followed this path, on this path, because of all these awful things that have led you on it.
mm,
So you cannot hate the enemy that has led you towards overcoming the enemy until you awaken. Until then, you will continue to hate him, but the idea is to find more and more reasons not to hate him. Each time you find a reason to let go of that hate and forgive him, you move closer and closer to resurrection.
the equity. You're satisfying the estate. You're settling the account. You know, they've done you an imbalance, but you've forgiven it.
That's right.
It's like, okay, now you're free. You're free when you surrender, and that seems totally counterintuitive. But when I've been handcuffed and put in a paddy wagon, I've felt more free than I ever felt before. How ridiculous is that? Because you're actually in a position where you're not free, like physically. But part of you knows that you don't have a choice, and that's freeing. You're now free
Well
because
said.
you are free from having to make a choice. You know,
That is the middle way. Yeah.
it's funny.
And then in the end, she said about freedom of
Is that Tony?
Tony, where is Tony? I don't know if Tony's still here.
No, someone was trying to talk to him, but I couldn't hear him.
Oh, I think it was
No,
Andy.
it's not me.
Oh no, they muted themselves. They're all good. They're just having their own conversation. Yeah, does anyone have any questions of what's happened tonight? Because it's been an interesting meeting.
Are you in Sydney, mate?
No, I
Sydney.
was in Sydney. I'm now staying in country Victoria. I was just in Melbourne a couple nights ago.
Oh, lovely. What brought you to Victoria?
My gut brought me to Victoria, assisted by Andy. You know,
Lovely.
like, yeah, like I just go with the flow, and I'm not worried about security because I know that life is naturally abundant, and everything's sorted. So why am I worried? You know,
Hmm.
allow nature to take me where it needs me. Wanted to be closer to Dan. No, it's funny. Dan Andrews doesn't actually have any power at all. People think that he's just the face of it. He is. He's the preacher. He has the religious title in the government. He's a minister. A premier is a minister, right? Ministers are a religious title. They have no decision-making power. It's like going to the local church and hearing the preacher. They don't have decision-making power over you. However, they are recognized as someone with, you know, who's respectable in the system or whatever. But so you can get a judgment from a preacher, you know, but they don't really have authority and decision-making power in the government at all. Dan Andrews has no power. It's the people like the Governor General, the military, the military titles of the government. They're the ones who make decisions because they're military.
Now, I had a question about Crown.
Yeah.
Isn't there just a way to do it all without Crown?
There's always a way to do it all the time without anything. Like there's always remedies.
No,
man.
but don't you think? Don't you think it is a bit disrespectful to those who have actually gone through the entire process of going through their genealogy, finding the royal lineage, and then actually going through the process required, the networking, the books, the courses, the responsibilities of learning the spiritual sort of works so that you can also walk the walk? Is it not disrespectful to those who have gone through all the challenges required to actually be able to carry that title as what it is, a title patent? Wouldn't you agree that it's a bit disrespectful to them? Because, well, their title doesn't really mean much if someone can just go up and say, "Oh, I am Crown."
What's a bit disrespectful? I'm just trying to figure out what you're saying is disrespectful.
Well, the value of Crown comes from the work you put into it. It's like saying I'm a master architect, right? The value in it comes from the title's patent.
People are confusing what Crown is in terms of, like, there's so many different definitions of Crown, but if we look at it from a banking perspective, right? Like you can look at it from a spiritual perspective, which is like, you know, you are aware of your authority and your own, your own power. But if you look at it from a banking perspective, it's the same thing, but it's actually trust law, ecclesiastical law, you know, that which sits directly under nature. It's commercial law, right? So it's the Crown is the one with the authority, the one who provides value in a trust. The set law is the Crown. So when they say this act binds the Crown, they're saying this act, this is our offer of a trust to you, set law. What would you like to do with it? You know what I mean?
Sure.
That's the way I look at it, and that's how I found relief and remedy, since I use their acts as well. But in terms of it being disrespectful to people, I think there's several ways to respond to that. One way is it's their journey, and no one can be responsible for anyone else's journey. Except, you know, like your own decisions are your own decisions, and you'll reap the fruits of the seeds you plant, right?
Well, I'm more coming from a perspective of, has anyone heard the opinion of someone in private who actually has that title, who's commented on this?
When you say who actually has that title, what do you mean? Title of what?
The royal title that comes with Crown by tracing the genealogy.
Well, you already have that. They've missed the point. They've gone a long way, but they went the wrong way.
Well, of course we do. All of us have some kind of royal title. It's just about proving it to be able to say that I bear the title.
You don't have to prove it.
Well, it depends if you came out feet first or head first.
It's like trying to prove that you're a living being. It's like it's obvious. You just have to act like it.
You got to appreciate how Australia was set up. I mean, it's nothing to do with royalty in Australia. The whole of it was set up under PMAs, under 3 islands, which is stated in the Enactment Act 1901, which you began just in Deception. It'll clearly tell you what it is and the wording for it. So you've got a lot of PMAs, which are basically private members associations, which can make their own laws, their own bylaws, and then people drop underneath it because they think they're in Australia, which is actually Terrace Australia, or whatever they want to call themselves, Southern Land. Originally sort of found by the Dutch and the French. And when Cook came down here, there was no space. There was so many people here, it was just not funny. So when he came back the second time, he started a trading company in Norfolk Island, and he claimed Christmas Island and what was the other one? Lord Howe Island, and that's what Australia is. And if you look at the tax enactment actually only states those 3 islands, the Barrier Reef, and 200 kilometres outside the land. It doesn't claim anything in Australia. So all you've got is PMAs here running people's trusts, your estate.
Yeah, true.
So I mean,
Yeah.
when you mention Crown in legislation, they are talking about the people. They're not talking about someone with a thing on the head. We're all Crown.
Yeah, because there's no connection between,
No, that's
from
not.
what I remember studying this Crown law, that there's no connection to an actual queen in England to Australia, because Australia is just debt shorty for the United States corporation.
But the power always remains with the people all the time, because the Queen was only the Queen because the people decided she was the Queen. As soon as they decide that she's not, guess where's her authority then? It's in, maybe her ability to rule with fear. That's not authority. That's not power. That's what that is a temporary postponed fall from grace. That's what that is. If you like, people decide who the Crown is, and like that's in terms of the old world. When people realize that they are the authority, there's no need to trace back royal lineage or any of that to get a title on paper. They're missing the point. The point of it all is that you are the authority
Another
already.
thing we forget, when the doc taker, is at the birth, he calls, I can see the crown is coming, the crown is here, before the mother picks a name.
And the doctor's a judge too.
Yeah.
You're a court officer.
Bad. I haven't heard that in ages.
Yeah, like that. That's the thing. Like, it only takes 2 people, witnesses, to declare you their king, and you are a king. When 2 or more gather in my name, there where I am. It's a trust. It all comes under commercial law. It's a trust. Right?
Hang on, it's symbolic for something though. It's symbolic for Kundalini, because you have the left and right hand of the throne. The right hand of the throne being favored comes to the left way, because when you're looking at the throne, the right hand is actually on the left side. The left side has authority because the left side is the will, and the will is representative of the crown, because the crown chakra is the brain, the thinking mind. Now, do you have a unique thinking mind if you go by the same name as everyone else and you claim that you are crown like everyone else? That's the part that trips me out, because I'd like to say that I am, whatever name that I've thought of that uses to describe me, like that's me being in control. That's me acting as crown. If I give someone the word crown, then I'm not actually acting in my own crown capacity. So that's what I meant when I said disrespectful to the crown thing, because I don't feel like I'm learning from their teachings if I'm giving in to something that isn't me.
Crown is more of a status than a name.
Yeah. Well, a name is a status title. It's just a title.
The royal styles and title is on your birth certificate. That's the royal styles and title. And when you get the Dick Yardley approach to everything, looking at the Constitution, I don't think he gets that these corrupt criminals that have taken over as a corporation, has hijacked the whole entire place, have actually given us more power. If we know how
But they're not criminals. No one can be a criminal in the law unless they're acting as the criminal.
Yeah,
I always ask them in the
It's all an act. It's all a theater.
Yeah.
The whole thing, the 14th Amendment was never ratified. And because the 14th Amendment was never ratified, the entire thing was just a theater stage designed to have each of you awaken.
But look,
so it wasn't designed to kill you. It's designed to kill the old self so that the awakened self can actually resurrect. That is, the spirit can come into the body.
The Constitution it's funny when people talk about the Constitution, because I don't care. I don't care about an agreement made by a bunch of old men who I never met.
It's important though. Hang on. It's important because in 1933,
not important.
That's when the entire planet fell under the United States corporation as a franchise of that corporation. And anyone that was birthed, any vessel that was birthed through an agreement, would immediately be debt surety to that corporation, to that master
But
corporation.
that's the thing, is that that's all in the world of fiction, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
if I have to bring myself, like with the Constitution and stuff like that, it's like, well, for me to be bound by anything that anyone else decides, I have to agree to be bound by it. So, and I can give you a reference, 1796, Cruden versus Neal. You know, no man is bound by any laws created by any of his fellow men without his consent. But that's even then, that's their fucking thing. Like, I can create my own title in the system if I want. Like, it's about comprehending your authority and your own power and realizing that you are a grantor of deeds, a god, if you will, a grantor of dominion. You know, because you grant a dominion is a trust, a jurisdiction. You can grant a trust, you can grant a dominion, right? And then also, like, people are so worried about this new world order and the one world government. Now, if you look at it like this, people, when they come together, are going to naturally form a one world government. But I think what's going on is that we've got a bunch of administrators, like the administrators are the problem. We've got people who are fucking power hungry, but people are naturally corruptible. If you put anyone as a fucking dictator, they're going to act like one, you know?
Yeah,
So how do we come to a one world government which is actually healthy, where people are together?
Well, we're already heading that way. That's why people are dying much faster, and that's why the reproduction rate has decreased. That is a result of the spell of life manifesting on this planet to prepare everyone that's ready for the harvest. Now, who is harvested? The shadows are harvested, and the shadows are those who act in, well, they don't act, they actually believe the fiction because they can't separate fact from fiction. That is what the machine is. Something that is programmed to run in binary. And binary is a split between both pillars. It is the rod and the ring. Now, when you have anything designed with binary, it can receive input and it can put out output. But the only thing it can receive is something that's split in two in binary, as a rod and a ring, right? What it can put out is the very same thing. It can only give others that. That is why you do not want to make friends with anyone who is a shadow. And that is why you're constantly pursuing someone who's more and more enlightened, because you're searching for a code that isn't in ones and zeros. You're looking for something that's real. You've been looking for it with every relationship you've ever had. You want to marry that. You want to fuck that. You want to have children with that. You want to create value out of that, and you want to live with that. So that's what we're all doing. We're moving towards that. Now, I don't decide, none of us decide who is going to be on the left and right hand of the throne. It's the spirit that decides that. That's why you're doing it all for the spirit. Maybe you're praying, maybe you're meditating, and you're asking a higher power for something, and you're manifesting that. And that's amazing. That's really good, because that's going to move you towards that higher power. But it's not going to happen until you transition towards knowing that that higher power is just as much within you as it is outside of you. And that's the whole thing. That's what prevents you from dying, transitioning towards taking that power. Once the power is equal, once you have just as much power as God has, and you realize that God really doesn't help someone who doesn't help themselves, and someone who doesn't help themselves cannot help God. When you have that realization and you've made it a part of everything you do, you've integrated it in your daily practice, in your work, in the type of job you've chosen, in the kind of people you want to surround yourself with, by sacrificing everything that doesn't actually go with that. Maybe that'll mean loneliness. Maybe that'll mean poverty. Maybe that'll mean going to a monastery. It doesn't matter. Whatever you need to do to manifest that is exactly what is going to bring about that awakening. Now, if you don't awaken in time for this shift, you will die. So this whole thing is just about awakening. And what happens when you awake? You awaken, you die anyway. So either way, you're going to die. There shouldn't be any fear of death. There should just be a fear of not living. And that's what should eliminate the fear.
That's very good. Very poetic. I like it. Tony's put a thing in the chat. He's put it in before. I noticed it before, but I didn't address it then. Which crown travelled internationally with diplomatic immunity through COVID and discharged a mortgage? I don't know anyone who's discharged a mortgage. I know of Jamison, who was able for a period of time to be able to get through borders using the Crown process, where he's finding remedy through legislation. Now, if I'm reading that sentence just the way it's written, which crown travelled internationally with diplomatic immunity through COVID? The Crown always has diplomatic immunity. COVID is a trust, and internationally meaning between trusts. There's lots of ways to look at that question, but does that sort of answer your question, Tony? Or maybe give you another
somewhat.
question to ask, I suppose.
I'm just checking if I'm audible. Yeah. Well, I guess we're all in our own infancy in discovering all this, but when we look at Crown having diplomatic immunity, none of the crowns that I know of were able to do it. I mean, Jamison was able to, go from Queensland to WA, I think, but they're not really borders, regardless of whether they've put these state borders, for these fictional ones up, intercontinentally. I don't know anyone that's been able to do it, and even nowadays, where things are supposedly a lot freer, how can we travel with diplomatic immunity, all rights reserved or whatnot?
I think when we get there, we'll just know. Like, we're not there yet. We're obviously not ready for that if we're not doing it. You know what I mean? So there's obviously a lot more for us to learn, and then when we get there, we'll know, and we'll be like, oh, right, all this struggle and figuring out stuff and Zoom meetings, served a purpose. Because no one has the full puzzle yet, I think. I think we're figuring it out as we go. It's an evolution, right? Like Greyman was saying, he's right, in my opinion. Is there any more?
Meditating in a
Who
cave
is
for 40
Grayman
minutes.
anyway?
He was on Zooms quite a while ago. I haven't actually seen him on a Zoom for a very long time. How have you been, Greyman? What's happening?
I haven't seen him at all. He hasn't got a picture of him.
I'll ask him to unmute.
I met him on the Crown a while back.
Yeah, he used to be. I remember him.
All right.
He's peeled a few onion layers since then.
Has he? What's been going on, Greyman? How have you been?
So I just took a call for like a few minutes. What did I miss?
Oh, we're just wondering where you've been, because we remember you.
Where I've been, I don't even know where to start. That's the question, isn't it?
That's the question.
Where is everyone? Where is everyone? I was never here. That's what's crazy. Half of me was never really here, and I had a great awakening overseas. I can't explain why I went, because nothing I ever did really had a substantial reason. I just kind of went with the flow. Everything was very intuitive. I just had faith that everything would work out. The entire life of who I was before was sort of like that. And then I had a great awakening out here it was in Smederevo, of all places, which is the wine capital, sort of like the vineyard of Serbia. And it was quite profound. And I've had a couple of months of figuring out what's going on this planet, what I went through, why there's a huge division of people, what the relationship is between the actual technology and machines, and why the vaccine is turning people into physical, utilities. And after a while, I finally realized who I was. And when I realized who I was, that's when I realized who I wasn't. So I started severing the connections between me and all those people who couldn't accept the fact that I wasn't who I was before. They thought I was losing my mind. They were people, they call themselves family, but they don't act like it. And that's the funny thing. They don't act like it.
I've got a quick question for you. What sort
Yeah.
of processes have you done? Like, because you were talking before, you mentioned 3 different ways of doing things. I'm just wondering what ways you've done, and if you have or you haven't, there's no harm if you haven't.
I haven't done it yet. I haven't done it yet. But what I will be doing is going through the. I'll be going through canon law. So I'll be looking into that when I get back, and I'll be getting them to correct my record and put me on the do not. What is it? The do not arrest register, the do not disturb register. Whatever you want to
That's
call
the
it.
thing is,
Do not hassle register.
I'm on that list, and the only way I got on it was through performance. I had to actually fucking get arrested and shit to and not contra. Like, there was a situation where I got pulled into a police station for refusing a breathalyzer, and it got to the point where they had to kick me out within an hour because they couldn't get the name, and they had presented me with a bond, and I completely threw it back in their face with authority by, scribbling out anything that they tried to do, and did it with a smile on my face. And that's what got me on the do not detain list, because from that moment they've really changed their tune when they deal with me. They just go, look, they shake my hand now, they just go, have a good one. But that was earned, like I had to actually go in there and risk something. So it does.
So they tested you then.
Yeah, it does.
That means they tested you 3 times. So the first test would have been when they took you under duress. What were the other 2? You said the third was the bond.
I've been put in the cells, like I've been doing this since really just after the beginning, when it became public in the Crown groups that there was a thing. I like back at the beginning of COVID, I've been getting into the Crown stuff, but before that I was with Know Your Rights group and all that. There's lots of times, but it was physically through actually performing. Like, I went into courts and I've been kicked out in courts. I've had matters completely disappear when I've just sent an email. Like, they can tell it's not paperwork which will save you. It's actually your performance. And maybe it is paperwork, but you will be tested on that paperwork. Like, they will come to you and go, okay, you think you're hot shit, prove it. You know what I mean? So don't rely on just sending a record correction, and then when they come to bother you, you're going to be able to you're going to be confused, but it's part of it. Yeah, you send a record correction, and they've now, as soon as you send a record correction, guess what? They're going to come and test you. They want to know. That's why templates are so dangerous, because that's why you have to write your own paperwork. Exactly right. A template is dangerous because you are swimming with sharks. You are piloting a plane. You need to know how to fly it. You can't use a template, because if someone's telling you this is the way to do it, it has to be done this way specifically, and if you don't listen to me, you're wrong, then you are dealing with someone who is attempting to manipulate you, because there is no specific way to do it. The goal is to get an unrebutted affidavit in commerce, and also to know how to use that. But there's many ways to do that.
Well, look, I'm just going to update. I'm going to notify their little Roman registrar and let them know that I'm not a slave, and that I am literally the eternal spirit incarnate in a body, and that I'm neither the spirit nor the body, but the union of the two, and that I'm acting under the authority of the spirit, to essentially let them know that that thing is dead, and that thing died on, well, March 20th. It was completely killed. For 5 days that thing was fighting a battle, and on the 20th of March it lost the battle. Now they're going to know that what I'm saying is true, because you cannot fake an awakening. So my path is a little bit different. I'm going with love. I'm going with trust, because I don't have an enemy, and I'm here to basically help this world see that there is no enemy. I'm here to help the unification.
Wait, well, you're on the right. You're in the right group then, man.
That's the thing. Is you have to. You literally have to take your own path. No one can really do it for you. They can help you, They can help you as much as they can, but
They can
you
guide
need
you.
to be the one to know your path. You need to do your path. It's your path.
I don't
Not-
think anyone, well, I don't know if anyone
It's
can
hard for
relate to
people to
my
accept
path.
that. It's hard
I
for
don't-
people to accept it because they want a savior, but that's what you have to lose. You have to lose the savior and realize you're your savior.
Well,
What'd you
yeah,
do?
that's
What'd you do
that's
ayahuasca,
what the
man?
Bible's about.
Did you go do ayahuasca?
No. When I had this happen, I wasn't under the influence of anything, but I felt like I was on a very high dose of LSD for about a week. It lasted for about a week. During those 5 days, it was the most intense. And then after the 5 days, it started to taper off bit by bit as my lessons began, the lessons to actually know who I really am, to because that's what you all go through when you're kids, right? When you're born into this world, you're figuring out who you really are, but that's all false. It's not true. None of it is real. It's all just the system testing you. It's all this matrix putting you through a sequence of true false variables. Now, when you get to a point where you can no longer go true or false, where you sort of go one way and that doesn't work, and then you go the other, and then that doesn't work. So you keep repeating, but you're not able to go in any direction. At that point, that's when the awakening occurs, when you're unable to go either way. That is the true middle way. So, yeah.
You can't. Yeah, the thing with templates, and I've pissed people off by saying this before, but if you're looking for a template, you're looking in the wrong direction. And as much as you would love to have things to be easy, it actually doesn't serve you in the long run, because I've given people templates, and because of that, they've gone in with a false sense of confidence and got themselves in trouble. And it's like, I've learned from that as they learn from that. And it's like, well, if you're doing this, you're going to be swimming with sharks, but you need to be a shark to swim with sharks. Otherwise you're going to get eaten.
Well, you try to be great white.
Yeah. You got to be able to learn to swim. You need to know who you are and what your process is and what you can do. And you've got your wand. Like I've got my wand, right? I can spell words with my wand. However, my wand is my wand. It doesn't work the same for you. You've got your
I have
own.
a lovely
You need
one.
to earn that, right?
I found this beautiful, it's a gold marker that has like a highlighter at the back, and it's that perfect kind of shade of gold that looks like a gold bar, and at the bottom it says 42. I found it at a local shop. Yeah, I thought someone might find that amusing.
42.
Yeah, because the king judges. The king who has resurrected is the one that judges, and his judgment is always absolute.
Yeah.
And that's where the idea of the new world order actually comes into the equation. It's what will come after this whole fictitious sort of system.
You know
This
what,
whole
man?
fictitious
You know what?
system is just to kill off the shadows, and then everyone that are left when this order actually forms will be those who can act as anything they want. And that's the end of the first matrix. That's why there's no borders or boundaries, because everyone has finally awakened. It's complete. The cycle's complete, and now anything can happen.
Mhm.
And when it does happen, it'll happen in balance. And that's true chaos. That's the scalar wave that the air and the water and the fire creates. And that's why Blue Shield's devices pump those same scalar waves in you to prevent your energy body from being disrupted. It's the same prana you manifest when you meditate. It's no different. That's what chaos really is. Now, a lot of people misunderstand that, which is why they hate Satanists, they hate Luciferians, they hate anyone who has any association with Masons, because they don't understand the symbology in a lot of these sects. They don't understand. Yeah. So these people, right, they don't want you to go in and join and rape 400 people. They say, do what you will, do as you will. And that's what Crowley's law was. Crowley always said, do as you will. He never said go and fuck animals, but he certainly hung out with some people who enjoyed that. And that was his directive. You know, he didn't harm anyone who didn't consent to it. And just like Crowley, all the other people who found power through magic in this world, they're the same. None of them ever harmed someone who didn't consent to it.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's no one to blame. There's no excuses. This is it.
Exactly.
This energy is increasing so much day by day
Man,
that you're all
man.
either blessed or cursed. So it's your choice each day. What are you? Are you blessed for being here where the energy is happening? Or are you cursed because your inner world cannot overcome the external?
You need lightning bolt.
And that's the resurrection. It's
You
on
know-
33 minutes in the Matrix, at exactly 33
That-
minutes.
that-
Neo awakens because his internal world has overcome
Agree.
the external by being in balance. That's the key. It's not overpowering your external with the internal, because when you overpower others with your will, you're forcing your will. Okay.
Exactly.
And that's not good. That is when one part of the scales weighs more than the other, right? But neither is the other good, which is to be subservient to another and to allow someone else to force their will on you. So that's the paradox. That's how you can tell who is a shadow. They'll either be someone who is attached to the family construct and allows family to dictate and mess with their lives and makes them go to dinners they don't want to do and talk over the phone with people they don't want to talk to because love has overpowered their will. And then there's the other side of the equation, these sick parents who are forcing their will on family members, right? Or maybe they're wealthy brothers and sisters who inherited their right by forcing their will and saying, hey, I have more money, I'm in charge of this family. But what are they really? They're just children. They're all just children. None of them have awakened. They're shadows. They're dead things. They're creatures. They're humans. They were what the debtor was about in this story. Okay? And they were what the creditor was also about in the story. Both the debtor and creditor are the same thing. When you awaken, you realize you are the administrator. The administrator is the only one that really has the beneficial interest, because their interest is always in balance.
The architect.
Yes, that's right. The architect. That's what the spirit is. The universal architect.
You know what?
That's why the G is the first letter of gray and Y is the last letter. Y is the mother. That is my name. If I must have a name, that will be my name, but it is not really a name because it doesn't exist in any sort of form that asks for a name. So what is it? It's just a word, and I am that word.
No, it's a sound.
It's a sigil. It's a sigil, and that sigil carries energy that's based on the numbers that were associated with the sound, which was created by very intelligent, wise mystics who were able to discern the note in frequencies without any technology. They divined it.
Just play gypsy music in the middle of the street.
You know, on that note, man, that's perfect, because, you know, at the end of the day, we are the judges. We're judging and we're getting it ready for where we're going.
Well, yeah, we're always judging. There's this huge misunderstanding. You can tell someone really doesn't read the Bible when they're like, don't judge me. They're basically saying like, don't act as the spirit. Don't act as the spirit. That's essentially what they're saying. We judge people whether we're aware of it or not. That's right.
We're breaking out of the cycle, man. We're breaking. That's it. Enough's enough.
Every act and decision is a judgment. Every single one.
Exactly. Every movement, every thought.
And that's the battle that takes place. Well, that's what the system's trying to teach you when you end up in court. They're trying to teach you how to judge and balance. That's why you have that magistrate appear before you, because you're unable to judge and balance. Now, I know that I'm never going to have to deal with a magistrate because I'm internally in balance. And it's that knowing that you're internally in balance when you awaken that prevents the external judgment.
I should have taken the blue pill.
Yeah, that's a really interesting thing, because cipher is actually a circle. That's what a cipher is. So what cipher represents is someone who's still entangled to the mother. So what is he really? He's still a debtor. He's left the matrix, but he wanted to go back in. Yeah. So what does he really represent? He represents those people who basically were very good actors. They tricked the nobility into basically, or they didn't trick them, but they acquired a beneficial title. And they acquired that beneficial title, like maybe someone like Ken Cousins from Gemstone, if someone's heard of him. But were they liberated within? They were not. because
No.
they serve an enemy construct.
Exactly.
They're basically,
exactly.
they're trying to push people
And they couldn't see it.
towards killing those who are actually already liberated within. So what they're doing is they're creating war. That's how war started. One king took up a crown who didn't deserve that crown. It was a false crown. And then he started putting in people this idea that the other kings that were actually righteous kings were evil and wanted to kill them and control them. But that wasn't true at all, because it was only true and not true. It was true to the extent that they represented the spirit in half of their polarity, and that spirit wants to take them. And that's the whole symbology behind being possessed. And this is how, like, some of the Satanists look at it. They look at it from a different perspective. They see the spirit as some kind of demon, and they see the sort of path to life, or the greatest sort of reward as being the one chosen to be possessed by that. So there's a lot of symbology that's just completely misunderstood by people, because they want to judge something on a binary sort of construct as, oh, this is black and this is white, but it's not. Everything is gray, really. When you open your eyes and ears, you'll see it for what it is.
Well, I think one of the biggest things is people feel a constant need to control everything around them, and because of that, they have no control. Whereas when you just surrender and you go, it is what it is, and allow things to be what it is, what they are, whether it's people, whether it's an engine breaking down, whether it's a being sick or whatever. It's like, well, once you surrender to it, and then now suddenly you've allowed something which is a lot more competent than you to take control, and which is the universe, right? The universe knows what it's doing a lot more than you do.
Fate.
And, if you give yourself to that, you surrender yourself entirely to the will of the universe. I'm not saying make stupid decisions or just not make decisions at all. Just recognize that you are doing the will of the universe, and allow the universe to do what it needs to do. And then
right.
You then have the universe suddenly get behind you and go, all right, now you've got me backing you because you've given me your value and your authority and your everything. You've surrendered to me. You've bent the knee, or metaphorically. But it's that's how I feel with it. You let go and suddenly you have everything you need all the time. It's true.
People are scared of that, man. It's not. I'm not scared. I'm not. I'm just trying to define. A lot of people are scared to make that move because they're either content.
Well, it's the biggest thing with the idea of money in society is that money is apparently it apparently has value according to everyone, that they need to hoard it, need to do all these things. And it's like, the reality of it is, why would you need to hoard something if you quite literally already have all of it all the time and you can create it whenever you want? Why would you need to hoard it? You're looking at things backwards, and that and when you realize that, you have to look at it from a different perspective. You have to let go of all attachments. You have to let go of everything and surrender. And then only then can you have the power, right?
Yeah, man, they can't do that, man. Really, they can't do that. They can't do that because they've put some thought or some value. They put a value to it, man. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know.
Well, they've attached their identity to it, so it's like they have to give up a piece of themselves, and that's hard.
No. It's the perception, man. Everyone's got a different perception of things, and that's normally driven by intent or whatever.
Anyway, anyone have any questions at all? Regards, I don't know how long we want to keep this Zoom open for. It's Andy's Zoom. I've somewhat hijacked it tonight, I guess, but I think it's been good. I think I've definitely been provided a lot of value from all of you and your opinions and stuff like that. Very grateful for everyone who's attended tonight.
Same guys, thanks. Sorry. Sorry, man. I'm a bit like rude, but it's honest rude. I'm not being, I don't mean any
Your
disrespect.
intent is not to harm.
Yeah.
That's
So
what's important.
if you want, just tell me to shut up every now and then, but in a nice way, and I'll shut up. Yeah.
So
That's
you can be
all
the
it
rude one, and we can be nice.
is. Yeah, exactly, yeah.
You asked Tony if Alexander the Great was a villain or God.
Because we're the Sheboygan people. We started the cradle of civilization, and everyone knows that, right?
Well, it's a funny story because
Yes, it is.
he went out there and he only drew his sword when someone prevented him from uniting the entire planet, right? There are some yogis. There are some yogis who call him a great idiot, right? Because he was trying to do something that many were saying wasn't the right time for. And yet, who decides when something's the right time for something?
Exactly.
You know, that's such an arbitrary concept. So it can be argued that yes, he was a god, and no, he wasn't a god. I'll say this, regardless of how your perception of God is or isn't, which is very much based on perspective, what he was an awakened being. He was resurrected. He was an enlightened man. And I know he was, because the story is so poetic. It's a resurrection story like Jesus. When did he get power? He took power the moment his father died. He took power. Who gave him the power? His mother gave him the power. So what is it really symbolic of? It's symbolic of the father, which is what was the will of the universe that overrode his own will. When that died, okay, when that ceased to hold power over him, rather, that's when his own will was acquired. And when he did acquire his own will, at that point, his will was directed by love, okay? But that love changed. That's what it means by the circumcision of heart. The love changes so that the love now is for everyone. The love is for every being equally. And that is why he ate the same food as his soldiers. That is why he walked. He didn't go on a horse. He walked with them for the entire journey. And that is why he also... Yeah, that is why he also gave everyone the same punishment for an act, for disobedience, regardless of how high or how low they were,
Fuck it.
So it's a very interesting story because it's also the story of what's going through this world right now, right? But this time, the world is ready for the change, right? Because every single story since the beginning of time has been indicating that right now is when it's going to happen.
Exactly.
So there's no coincidence that artificial intelligence has reached the point where it basically has the power, if it wants to wipe out the entire human race. That's really just the price that we have to pay in fear for it to be able to manifest the death of all those that need to basically go as shorty, to pass away to allow the others to awaken. Yeah, because the energy has to go somewhere, right? Their energy is basically moving into the energy of those who are ready. It's an entirely new world, an entirely new energy, an entirely new way of being and living. And it's time for all of you to imagine what that's going to be like. A world without borders, no rules. Do what you want. Everyone is going to have abundance because everyone is going to be an adult that is able to contribute in their best capacity. So imagine what that's like. Think about it every day. Fantasize about that. And if attractive men or women who are equally as sensitive as they are intelligent and beautiful in balance is a part of that equation, then naturally, maybe you'll want to masturbate to that to increase the manifestation. What you do with your fantasy is up to you. All I'm saying is you do you. That's all I'm saying. Enjoy the show.
It's not 9:30 yet, bro. It's not 9:30 yet.
I'm imagining a beer with Greg.
No, man, you're spot on, man. You're spot on. Thank you for saying it because, man, I've been thinking it and living it and fucking trying to fucking, I don't know, man.
You said it in a less poetic way only a couple hours ago.
Mm.
If
Well,
you-
it's
if you
it's
know
all
you've
just a
got
God
abundance,
spell, right? It's
Get
not
that shit,
gospel, it's
man.
a God
Right,
spell. It's what the
exactly.
awakened weave as spells to the unawakened to
Uh-huh.
get them to awaken. And that's all we can do. We can give our energy in balance. There's nothing more noble than that.
Yeah, true, man. Fucking oath.
So thank the creators of this system each day. Wake up in the morning and be grateful to them for laying out the framework for you to basically awaken, right?
Bro, we're only, all right. You know what connects us all together? Water. No one's grateful for water. No one, man. They just fucking turn the tap on and expect it to be there. And if it's not there, straight away on the phone, man. Yeah, the plumber, come fix it. Fix my water instead of saying fucking, thank you, water, for being there.
Mm.
Water's like what do you call it? Lithium.
it's the only one
memory
that's
conductor.